everyone. Welcome to the Legislative Action Committee meeting for Michigan Coalition Against Homelessness. Happy November. Who can believe it's November already? Not me. But here we are. So buckle up. It's going to be an interesting rest of the year, and we'll talk more about that with you. Just super glad you're with us. I would just like to invite everyone to please put yourself on mute if you haven't already. It kind of helps with our sound quality. And if you haven't introduced yourself in the chat, we'd love for you to do that now. And I just want to say we have people from all over Michigan, every corner. So thanks for taking some time to be with us today. I'm Lisa Chapman. I'm the Director of Public Policy. We also have our CEO, Eric Huffnagel, speaking, as well as a few of my other colleagues, Ashley Heidenrich. So welcome, everyone, and glad you're with us. Next slide, please. Micah's mission, and I just want to highlight inclusion. We are an inclusive voice. We work with all of you to make sure that homelessness is on the way out and that housing that's affordable is on the way up. Next slide, please. And so our agenda today, we do not have a speaker. We will have one in December. We thought we'd just take this time to talk with you about what's going on, both federally and in our state, talk a little bit about things that we're involved in that we hope you will join us for the rest of the year. And then we want to hear what's going on where you are. So that's our agenda for today. As always, we invite you to put something in chat if you want to make a comment or say something, and you can also raise your hand. And Lauren Conrad, our amazing intern, is going to be posting links so you can get all the information that you need as we're kind of talking about it. So without further ado, let's go to the next slide. So now I'd love to turn it over to Eric Huffnagel to talk about some federal updates.
Sorry, I froze, so I'll turn my camera off. I'm sorry, I don't want to be rude, but that's what happened. Good to see all of you here. A lot of familiar names in the chat. Thank you for being here and taking time to participate in this process and for introducing yourself in the chat. Just very quickly, I want to talk about the elephant in the room, and that is that we have an election tomorrow. That will help to define the course that will be taken going forward with respect to the federal fiscal year 25 budget. So as we shared at the last meeting, that Congress is going to be coming back to work after their recess. They're off campaigning. They're going to be back at it next week on Tuesday. It gives just 5 weeks for them to get business done. They did a continuing resolution that runs through December 20th. They have some tasks ahead of them. And so one of the things that they're having to consider is who is going to be the next president. And the negotiations have been taking the tone of trying to have a clear slate for the next president. So they're not trying to do too many things that are going to be encumbering the next president with policies or priorities that have been stated through the current administration. And they also have to deal with the fact that there's a big difference between those top line spending numbers between the House and Senate. We talk about top line budget numbers. We're talking about the high end numbers that are identified for each of the bills. So they need to work within the parameters of what those top lines are as they are negotiating each of those bills. So let's go ahead and move on to the next slide. I'm not going to spend too much time here talking about all the ins and outs of what we're hoping will be in the bill, but why don't we go to the next slide? I just want to remind you, this is something we shared before, but this is the time for you to reach out to members of Congress. The election will be happening. There will be some new members, no doubt, coming in January, but this is an opportunity for us to contact those who are elected officials, at least through the end of December, to talk about those priorities that we have been talking about for the last 12 months when we think about this year's budget. So just highlighting these things, this will be information that's available to you later, but I'm just putting them out there as a reminder. So let's go to the next slide. Just to remind you, this is how you can get involved. Email, call the offices. You can also elevate the issue of homelessness using your social media and amplifying some of the messages regarding funding and the importance of some of the elements of the funding that we're talking about, but also sharing stories. So we think in terms of people who are directly impacted by homelessness or are at risk of homelessness, sharing their stories to help motivate those in elected office to take action. So next slide. This is something that's going to be taken out of our rotation. We've had this in our slide deck for the last 8 or 9 months. We're going to be taking it out, but we're going to include this link in the links that go out to everybody so you have a reference and how to access some of this information going forward to get more engaged with advocacy. Next slide. Okay, well, we missed something. So something happened with the slides that I had actually been working on. I don't know what the dealio is here, but I wanted to just take an opportunity to talk to you about the annual policy forum that is hosted by the National Low Income Housing Coalition. That's going to be taking place in March 24th through the 27th. That does include a Capitol Hill Day event, which is an all-day thing on the 27th. And I want to put that out there. We'll put the link in the links that we send out to everybody after this meeting and maybe even drop it into the chat here. Oh, thank you. Quickly populated. I'm bringing this up because number one, the policy forum is a good one. There are a lot of conferences that I and other staff have attended over the years, and I think we can say this is one that we really think is valuable. And so want you to consider participating in that, but also the Capitol Hill Day event. This is an opportunity for folks to make an impact by going to the Capitol. We're involved in that on a regular basis, helping to captain those visits. If you're interested in going to the conference and also the Capitol Hill Day visits, I really encourage you to start pursuing that. Look into that right now. But you can also go just to Capitol Hill Day visits if you don't want to go or can't afford to go for the full conference, the full forum. I encourage you to be thinking about that as well. So it's a great opportunity to get together with other advocates and be the squeaky wheel on Capitol Hill. So that's all I have to say about that. We're going to move on to the state updates, and Lisa's going to kick us off with that.
Okay, thanks so much, Eric. And I just want to add on that NLIHC Policy Forum is really a wonderful event. If you can swing it to attend, it's a couple $100, I think, for registration, but they have a lot of heavy hitters from, you know, Washington. We usually have somebody from Congress, some great speakers, as well as it's a great opportunity to network and hear what's going on in the policy world. So email the links. Yeah, we will follow up with the links that we've talked about on this call. So we definitely will do that. I just also like to invite people to mute. If you're not already, just getting a little background noise. Okay, next slide, please. So source of income protections passed both the House and the Senate. There are some administrative things that need to happen to assure that the language is concurrent and consistent. And there were 5 bills, 3 in the Senate, 2 in the House. So there's a little administrative behind the scenes work that has to happen. And then I have been told that it will happen after the election. And that it will go to the governor's desk after that. So you can go to the next slide. And it did not get immediate effect. So to have immediate effect, it has to pass by more than 60%. And so it will be, once it gets signed, it will go into effect 90 days after the end of the legislative session. So that's, you know, probably the end of March. So wanted to talk about a campaign that we have launched called the Housing Home Stretch campaign. This is in recognition of all the hard work that a lot of you and a lot of our advocates did with our legislators to sponsor more than 100 housing related bills. Unfortunately, only a small number of them have passed. And so we really want to shine a light on the waning days of this legislative session at the end of the calendar year. Whatever doesn't pass, as you might know, has to be reintroduced the next session. So we really want to promote this to you. We have a couple events that we want to talk about that are part of the Housing Home Stretch campaign. You can be an official partner. Lauren just posted a link. You can sign on to be an official partner. We're holding calls. We will have one on Wednesday at 11 a.m. We're promoting all this information to legislators as well, and our governor, that we really are counting on them to take action yet this session to put forth some of that important legislation. We are also holding a rally on the 13th, which I will talk about in a moment. So next slide, please. And you can sign on as an organization or an individual. So just wanted to make that clear. So we are identifying 9 bills here that we are prioritizing for the Housing Home Stretch campaign, priorities that we are asking our legislative partners to pass yet this year. And the reason why we picked these 9 are, they're either, you know, the most impactful. A lot of them are tenant protections, but some of them are also ones that are a little bit further ahead. They may have had a hearing or a vote in one of the chambers or both. So they are kind of a leg up, if you will. So we really are hoping that at least some of these will move forward. And so the source of income protections, I already talked about those. Those are Senator Bayer, Irwin, and Kavanaugh, Reps Morgan and Conlon's sponsored bills. And those are this close. The eviction expungement and sealing bill, which Senator Winnie Brinks introduced last session, now Senator Bayer introduced this session. The right to organize and repair is another really important one, tenant protection that Senator Anthony introduced. There's also a tenant empowerment package. Fair chance access to housing, House Bill 4878 is one that's also had a hearing, and it's Rep. Ayash's bill. And so that is another priority, as well as the manufactured housing regulation package that was introduced by Senator Cherry and also Jen Hill in the House. The rental fee, junk fee regulation is now called rental fee transparency bill, and that also is Senator Bayer. Tenant right to counsel is one that Rep. Devendorf introduced. The tenant screening regulation is Price's bill. And then, did I get that right? No, that's Rep. Carter's bill. And then the last one is Rep. Price. So these are really prime bills to really make the most impact yet this year if they're passed. So this is what we are prioritizing. So you can go to the next slide and we'll talk a little bit more about some of the things that we've done. So we sent a letter to the governor and our legislative partners. We've also had a lot of meetings with important legislative partners, key members of the House and Senate who either are sponsors of legislation or key committee chairs, to really put forth how important we think these bills are and that they get passed. So in that vein, we are also hosting a rally along with the Rent is Too Damn High Coalition. A week from now, next Wednesday, November 13th, it'll be in Lansing at the Capitol. Lauren just posted the flyer and a way to register for the rally. It starts at 11 o'clock, and we will be gathering at the Central United Methodist Church. Lunch will be available. We'll have some speakers, and then we're going to march around a couple of the important buildings around the Capitol and then make our way into the Capitol. It will wrap up around 2 o'clock. I did also want to say, I know that there is a bus that is being organized from Detroit. If you need any transportation from there. We are also, we didn't make any legislative appointments yet for that day. Thanks for your question, Shannon, but people can make one with their legislators for later that afternoon, or we might just do some pop-ins and leave materials and see who we can meet with. So it should be, we're hoping for a couple hundred of our nearest and dearest advocates. So we'd really love for you to attend. Next slide, please. So as we do every year, the Campaign to End Homelessness, which is made up of some state departments, including MSHDA and DHHS and Department of Corrections and others, as well as statewide advocates, including MICA, come together as part of the Campaign to End Homelessness and determine some budget priorities for the next year's state budget. And we've sent a letter to the governor. The letter was just finalized at the end of last month. And some of the priorities include expansion of emergency shelter, street outreach, and sheltering for domestic violence survivors to the tune of $10 million. We also requested a permanent fund for emergency rental assistance for our state for $30 million. We requested an increase for permanent supportive housing services for people who are chronically homeless. And this comes on the heels of funding the last 2 years that the governor included in the budget. The first one was $6 million, and last year 20 million was allocated. And this is really important funding to enable people who have been homeless a long time to remain stably housed and have the services that they need. As well, PSH, a fund for gap financing, because this is a really complex type of housing that's really affordable, but usually uses quite a few types of different leveraged financing. So a gap financing fund to help fill in where needed is being requested to the tune of $20 million. And then some community-based systems transformation, advocates that comes off the racial equity work and the action plan that was developed this year. So those advocates would be deployed around the state, as well as increased SOAR funding for SSI outreach, access and recovery. That's what that acronym spells out. And it is really a great method for getting people both Social Security income as well as Medicaid. So that's a best practice. So those are the basic funding requests and priorities for the budget for the 25-26 budget year, which would start next October. But this process has already started. Different state departments have already been asked to put together their budget priorities. So it's really timely. So we will post a link to this campaign letter, and you can feel free to amplify and reach out to your legislators and let them know that this is really important to include in the budget. So next slide, please. Being the end of the year, one other thing that we are looking forward to is working with you to develop our policy priorities for next year. You're looking at a graphic with our 2024 policy priorities, but we are hosting a couple opportunities for you to weigh in on what you think our policy priorities should be. So next slide, please. We have sent out a survey, and here is a QR code to take that survey, and I think it's going to be posted in the chat as well. But we are also hosting an opportunity to meet with us in person. We are doing a policy and pastries focus group the morning of the 13th, right before we have the rally. We're going to be across the street at Michigan Municipal League, and that we're going to have about an hour-long focus group to hear from people if they want to chat with us about what they think our policy priorities should include. Amy, did you have something?
Yeah, before you go to the next slide, there's a lot of
Sure.
moving parts with almost 70 people on this meeting. So in the chat, some folks have weighed in that they've missed some links for possibly the housing home stretch, and Lauren is doing her best to make sure we put them back out while keeping up on the new links. So as we progress, before we wrap up, we'll put some of the key ones in at the very end in case if you didn't get a chance to click on them, because the chat's moving really quickly and the links go up top. So no panic. And I just want to reiterate, Lauren sends out a phenomenal summary in our action alert that they'll all be there. So to the gentleman that asked about the specific bills in housing home stretch, because we've moved past that slide, as an example, those are in that document as well. So anything at the end, we'll make sure we address. But Lisa, before we go forward, there is one question from Anthony about anything in the budget to try to cover the shortfall on housing choice vouchers.
So the budget for 2025-26 is just being crafted now, and each department puts money in the budget, or requests money in the budget, and then there are appropriation committees for each department and each segment of the state budget that do that work of crafting drafting what should be in the budget, and then it goes to a big appropriations committee where they hammer it out, and Senator Anthony is chair of that. I am not aware at this point of putting funding in to cover the shortfall, but we can ask our partners at MCAH to see if there's anything being contemplated, because that's a great suggestion. I think optimistically, people are hoping that, shortly in 2025, that freeze on vouchers will end, but it's like anybody's guess at this point. And part of it depends on what's happening with the election. You are most welcome. I think I got all the questions. I know people one other, I'm sorry. There was a question about who becomes a member of NLIHC, and it's a paid membership. You have to join. I think there might be a category for people with lived experience that might be free or very low cost.
I dropped the links in so that they can go right to the site and see the breakdown.
And did you have another question?
I had a question. I didn't ask a question yet.
Okay.
Yeah, you were talking about the what is it called? The housing aid vouchers. And I was on the list for 2 years, and then you said they froze the list. I was told that they just kicked everybody off of the list.
Well, they over leased, rents went up and people's incomes didn't match, and so they had to spend a higher amount of funding. So they had to put a hold on issuing any new vouchers. Doesn't cover anyone who's currently on a voucher. That will continue, but
my specific question was about the list. I was on the waiting list. Sure.
It put a hold on pulling anybody from the list.
So they didn't take me off the list. I was told they took me off of the list.
Well, that could be because the list gets stale after some months. So they might have to repopulate. I think that still remains to be seen, depending on how long it is until they are able to issue vouchers between the time that they froze the list. And, I think that oftentimes it's really hard to find people who are on the list after a period of time, so they might have to repopulate it, but I'm not 100% sure. So let us find out that information and we'll share it out.
Lisa, there's only a certain amount of time that HUD allows you to keep people on the list. And they did predict that everyone that was on the current list would probably lose their spot on the list before it opened back up.
Because of the timing, just how
Yeah.
long,
Yeah.
And HUD's
Because there's
rules.
like a policy that they can only be on the list for X amount of time and it would be longer than that. So
Okay.
unfortunately, you probably are not on the list anymore.
All right, thank you for that, Allison, that update. All right, next slide, and I know there's a lot of links and a lot of stuff to sort through, so we will definitely send out in our follow-up all the links so that you can have it handy. So in concert with our work and the end of the legislative session coming to an end with the end of the calendar year, there may be a lame duck session. And what a lame duck session is, it refers to the time period after the November election to the end of the calendar year. Right now, our legislature, and I'm getting some feedback from somewhere, so I'm just reminding everyone, please mute. There are 4 days on the calendar for legislative sessions in November. They may not hold all of them, but they're on there right now. And then 8 days in December. Again, they could choose not to take a roll call, not to have any agenda items, and that happens sometimes. So it's really hard to predict what's going to happen in the lame duck session if we're even going to have one. It is typically used at the end of the term for legislators that may be term limited or chose not to run again. They take this opportunity at times to enact maybe controversial bills or ones that aren't exactly that are nonpartisan. If somebody has like a pet project or something that gets introduced and can be passed fairly quickly, but legislators use this as an opportunity to maybe not get election backlash. So it's a very defined period of time. And the term was first used, for those of you that are curious, in 1863 to refer to broken down politicians, that they were lame ducks. So see my little picture there? So that's how it came to be called lame duck. And I will tell you that in our outreach to a lot of our legislative partners this year, many of them are planning for lame duck. I also talked with someone last week at the summit on ending homelessness, who's a decades seasoned policy person, who said they didn't think there was going to be any lame duck session. So wildly different opinions, and it really depends on the results of the elections. So if Democrats keep the majority, maybe there won't be. Maybe they don't. They feel like, next year we can get to stuff that we didn't get to this year. The chambers are split, or if the Republicans win the majority, maybe they'll take the opportunity to push some things through. So we really don't know. So look in your crystal ball. So we'll see. And so this is, something to pay attention to towards the end of the year. A lot of times they don't take time off for the holidays. They push forward and get some work done. So fingers crossed. Next slide, please. Now some updates from us about things that we're promoting or hosting or involved in. Ashley, I'll turn it over to you to talk about Our Homes, Our Votes.
Hi, everyone. Thank you all for being here today. A really big group and lots of great faces. I'm going to be doing a little segment on what I'm sure is on everybody's minds right now on the election tomorrow, and talking about voting and what you can do as a housing or homeless service provider, if that applies to you. And so Lisa picked this quote out actually, and it's, a really great quote from U.S. Congressman John Lewis. In 2019, he said, "The vote is precious. It is almost sacred. It is the most powerful, nonviolent tool we have in a democracy." So very powerful words to start us off there. Little graphic, vote. Your voice matters. It really does. So I just want to run through a couple different voting facts, just as we talk about voting and homelessness and housing and how all these things are related. And you know, these are useful if you haven't voted yet, if you haven't registered, or if you have clients, friends, family, just some things to think about, because today and tomorrow you can still register, can still think about voting. Folks can still make up their minds. So just a couple things to continue thinking over in the past couple days. So first I'll share, you know, something that's a really difficult fact and a really big reason why we do voter engagement work here at MCAH, is that as few as 10% of individuals who are experiencing homelessness vote, despite over 60% being eligible, because it varies state to state. But in Michigan, if you don't have an ID, if you don't have a permanent address, you're still eligible to vote. But many people feel that their vote doesn't matter, that they're not allowed to vote, or feel really disenfranchised with the system. But we know that when we elevate our voices and that when we have people who are the closest to experiencing homelessness and housing challenges, that those are the voices that really need to be heard the most in these policies. And so when we're talking about housing and homelessness resources, we need everybody to be raising their voices and voting, regardless of their housing status. Voting is a civil right, and something in this country that we should all be able to do. And so we've been hard at work just the past few months getting folks registered. You might have seen us at a variety of community events, registering and really working with a lot of providers to help elevate votes. So we're really excited about everything that we've done and just hope that as many people as possible can get to the polls this year. And I'll also share a couple other quick reminder is people with felonies can vote. People in jail awaiting trial can vote. People with any criminal history can vote. The only group that can't vote are folks who are actively serving a prison sentence. And again, if you don't have an ID or an address, you can vote. When you go to the polls, you will be asked to present an ID. However, you can sign an affidavit and do not need an ID to vote. And you can register at any address, whether it's a friend or a family member's house, a shelter, somewhere where you regularly stay, cross sections of a street, a park, any address is acceptable. It doesn't have to be a traditional permanent address. And rides are available to the polls. This is something that is new in Michigan in the past couple of years, so it's really important to reiterate that helping folks get to the polls and providing rides to the polls, whether that's rideshare, whether that's carpooling or using your organization's vehicles to get rides to the polls, that is completely legal. Again, as long as it just remains nonpartisan. I'll also share that income disparities really do exist among people who vote, as well as there's a really big gap between homeowners and renters in voting. In some elections, homeowners have been almost twice as likely to vote as renters. And so when we are talking about advocating for policies to decrease rents and increase tenants' rights and protections, we need to close that gap between renters and homeowners. And I love this little bullet point from Lisa as well, is voting is your superpower. It's true. Everyone is equal at the ballot box. Everyone has one vote. And all of our votes count exactly the same. And as Michiganders, our votes are very, very important, as I'm sure we all know. And then I'll just mention one more time, same-day registration and voting is available in Michigan. You just need to make sure that you are bringing a copy, that any sort of document, piece of mail, anything that just proves your address. If you're registering within, you know, these last couple days, you do have to bring proof of address along with you. And I just want to finish off with a few tips for housing and homeless service providers or any social service provider. Voter education and assistance with registration, transportation to the polls is absolutely allowed and encouraged and is a really invaluable service you can provide to your clients. A couple sample ideas of things that you can do today and tomorrow is to post the locations of your polling place. Make sure you know where your local polling place is and talk to clients, make sure that they understand where their polling place location is, and ask your clients if they have a voting day plan and if they require any assistance creating one. You can also extend shelter hours and meal times on election day to help accommodate folks who might have to vote into the evening, especially if there's lines or if somebody has to vote after work. That can be really helpful in removing barriers. And then something else you can do is assist with rides to the polls. So this can look like Uber and Lyft vouchers, use of property vehicles, and if your polling place is close by, facilitating group walks, rides, carpooling to the polls. And really do encourage that same day registration. That's something that's a bit newer and that not everybody knows about. And I believe that is it for me. I'll just end with a couple quotes. One here from former Supreme Court Justice Louis Brandeis is that the most important office and the one in which all of us can and should fill is that of the private citizen. And I really like this one as well. Not voting is not a protest, it's a surrender, from Keith Ellison, a former congressman and Minnesota Attorney General. And something I always think about as well, I heard a great speaker at a conference a few months ago who I think just had a very funny and insightful point, is that every day we're faced with hundreds, if not thousands of choices. We have 50 decisions over what coffee we can order at Starbucks, but in this one instance, there's a couple choices, especially when it comes to voting for national offices. So not voting isn't really a choice. It's not a protest. There's so many ways to get involved politically throughout the year, but at this one point, it's really important to make your choice and make your voice heard. And that is it for me. Thank you, everyone. Go out and vote and hang in there in the next few days. We're at the home stretch now. This is really exciting. And to anyone who's done any voting work, anyone who's just voted already, talk to their friends and family about it. Thank you. Thank you. That's what democracy is. And it's just been really wonderful to be involved in voting work personally in the last few months. And just, you know, a word of encouragement and gratitude to anyone else who's been involved. Thanks, everyone.
Yeah, thank you so much, Ashley. Great information. Love the active chat. I just wanted to say, like, question about same-day registration. As far as I know, it can only happen at the clerk's office. I don't think you can go to the poll and register on the same day, but you can also get an absentee ballot as well and fill it out right there at the clerk's office, vote and register on the same day. That's Michigan law. So Ashley, I don't know if you have anything else to add, but that's my understanding. And I put, yeah.
Yes.
Okay, I put, yes, clerk's office. Thank you. I put a link to like a Michigan document with voter, all kind of FAQs, you know, so you can check that as well. And I just want to say thank you to everyone. Thank you if you're helping someone get to the polls or, you know, vote or whatever you're doing. If you're a poll worker or an inspector, or you're on the couch watching the, you know, returns tomorrow. Thank you so much. And, you know, I was really encouraged all the events that we did this year around elections and how many people said they were already registered, which was really encouraging. So people are participating in the process, and that's what we want to see. But I did just want to I've been reading a lot, estimates about when we'll know the outcomes. We're very widely and wildly. So we could know Wednesday, or maybe it'll be a couple days. So yeah. All right. We would love to tell you about 2 trainings we have coming up this month. Allison, do you want to talk about them, or do you want me to? I know you were here.
I can. So the first one, Micah's, if you have not noticed, is doing in-person training again for about the last year. We are having an in-person training in Lansing on creating an organizational resilience against burnout, which is super, super important in this industry, and also is a topic that I'm asked for all of the time. This will be more of like a workshop style. You're being asked to bring your policies and procedures manual with you to be working on those in the workshops. You'll actually do real work as opposed to just it being a lecture, which you will have some educational portions, but really leave with some actionable steps that you can take in your organization. And so we would love for you to register for that. I always get amazing feedback when we have speakers from the Michigan Coalition to End Domestic and Sexual Violence. They're phenomenal. So the information is on your screen as well as the registration link. And then if you are not aware, Micah provides one free training a month. These are free and open to the public for anybody. And this month, Lisa and Ashley curated this session on vital documents and ID for people experiencing homelessness. So you can sign up for that one there. Thanks.
Thank you. And the one on the 25th on the vital documents is a webinar. We have members from MDHHS, Michigan, some of our state partners, some of the people that were on the state ID task force, a provider. So it'll be hopefully cover the waterfront about all the vital docs that people need and oftentimes don't have. And thank you, Amy. It is also Homeless Awareness Month. So thank you everyone for all the activities. We're going to try and get out and go to a lot of them. And we have a calendar that you can check that has as many as we know that are happening this month. So next slide, please. And okay, there we go. So save the date for next year. We always host an advocacy day, and next year it will be on Wednesday, April 9th. This is the same location that we were at last year at Lansing Community College. There's free parking, which is wonderful. We are just working with the transportation companies to get a shuttle bus to do a loop around so people won't have to walk so far in their to go to their meetings. And stay tuned for more information, but please put it on your calendar and plan to attend. It will be an all day, or most of the day. Will probably end at 3 o'clock. So hope you can join us.
And Lisa, if I could add, this is Amy. I'm the communications manager for Micah. I added about the Homeless Awareness Month, specifically that paid training could be in honor of that month, a great staff offering for your colleagues or your own staff to send them to that training as a part of a way to show your appreciation for the folks on the front lines doing that outreach during Homeless Awareness Month.
Thank you. Now this is where you come in. We have some good time left today. So we'd love to hear about, you have things going on in your community, your organization. What are you thinking? And liaisons? I know many of you are with us today. Dana, I see your hand raised.
Yes, hello everyone. My name is Dana Watson and I'm on the Ingham COC. Ingham County is located in Lansing, Michigan. I'm just saying in case maybe someone didn't know that reference. But we are, we've gotten together with the Ingham COC and I work at Ingham County Health Department as our Health Equity and Social Justice Coordinator. One of our commissioners approached us in public health about hosting a conversation regarding alternatives to encampments. And so we are going to be hosting a conversation on alternatives to encampments. Our participant group, our hopeful participant group is going to be people that are in encampments or have faced encampment removals so that we can together as a community talk about, again, what alternatives are available and also understand that even though most of our unhoused people are in the city of Lansing, they are not just coming from the city of Lansing. They're coming from our suburban areas as well and other counties, sister counties. And so being able to also talk about what funding or who should be putting dollars towards what is at some points going to be discussed. But we've picked a morning conversation at the Fledge at 10 a.m. on November 16th. That's a Saturday. We found funds to be able to provide warm breakfast and coffee. And again, our hope is to hear from the people impacted and start some facilitated dialogues and then get to some solutions that we can share with policy and decision makers. Thank you.
I'm talking on mute. Thanks, Dana. That was amazing. And I know, you know, that's a pressing issue for a lot of communities dealing with, you know, encampments and people living outside. So very critical. Thank you for sharing that. What about others? Anything else going on?
Hi, this is Lauren from United Way for Southeastern Michigan. I'm going to put a link in the chat. We are asking one of our voting engagement campaigns and strategies is to ask people to take the pledge to vote, which is sharing, just committing to vote and sharing with us the method that you plan to use to vote, whether that's early, same day in person, or drop off your ballot. And I know some of you have already done that. So if you don't mind taking the pledge to vote, we would really appreciate it. And that's all. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Lauren. That's really exciting. And I think it, you know, if people are on the fence, it tends to really make you think, yeah, I should. So yeah, make that pledge and make a plan to vote and figure it out. Because I think I read something that as of yesterday, I think 1/3 of all Americans had already voted. So that's super encouraging. Yeah, really exciting. I know a couple million Michiganders voted by the absentee ballot or vote at home. And then a lot of folks took advantage of the 9 days of early voting. I know I heard about 2-hour lines on the first day in some communities right where I am. So it's exciting that so many people want to.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you do take the pledge to vote, you'll get an email that'll send you back to our voting page. So if you haven't made your plan to vote, it'll be able to help you walk through exactly how you plan to vote. And then you can print it out with everything on the ballot and who you plan to vote for and take it with you to the polls.
Oh, great. Yeah, Jennifer's saying that she waited 2 hours yesterday in DeWitt Township. My goodness. Well, hopefully you feel like it's time well spent in participating in democracy. So it's great. I'm just reading, Kayla's saying that they are in Northern Michigan with a local adult education program. Early stages of starting to start a shelter. Yes, we actually have some information that we could send you. So thank you for that. We will grab your email. Oh, Jennifer was clarifying. She didn't wait. She friends of hers. Yeah. Hoping for your usual 20 minutes or less tomorrow morning. Hopefully you're getting there when the polls open at 7. Great. Yeah, and we will follow up with all this flurry of all these links. We will follow up. Lauren does a great job of capturing everything and getting it up.
And if for any reason you don't get the action alerts that we've mentioned throughout the meeting or our training information from Micah, the very last link, if you just take one with you from this meeting, it's to sign up for our newsletters. We've had a record turnout today of 70 people. So it's possible some of you are not on our email list. So the one I just posted at 12:49, that will take you right to our newsletter sign up, and then that will ensure you get all the links. Thank you.
Thanks, Amy. All right, anyone else want to share what's going on in your community, either election related or Homeless Awareness Month?
I've
or
got lots of hands up, Lisa.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
How about, I think Max, your hand is up first. You want to go ahead?
Yeah, just first off, it's a suggestion, but also kudos to 70 people attending this. That's awesome. You know, it's great to see that. And then also, it would be great if we've been trying to coordinate rides to the polls for our clients and community members, and it's been really disjointed process of these different resources that are available. And it's never too early to talk about 2026, but it would be interesting to see if other organizations, across like the Michigan Coalition Against Homelessness, but other causes and identities that intersect with housing and homelessness are able to come together and kind of create a proactively and preemptively create a resource where folks could be able to access this, as opposed to kind of these different pieces that pop up like 5 days before an election or some of these other parts, because every part makes a difference. But if we have the opportunity to be proactive, that would be something that would definitely have a big impact.
Yeah,
But
great
thank you.
suggestion. And 2026 won't be a minor election. I mean, it won't be a presidential one, but we will be voting for a new governor and our state senators and many other important elections. So yeah, and it's never too early to start planning and having more of a comprehensive transportation array available rather than, yeah, piecemeal like we are now. Thanks for that. Holly.
Yeah, what's going on with MH Action? I'm here in place of Paul Terranova today. We will be having a Michigan leaders meeting on Wednesday evening about doing the final stretch for getting the manufactured housing bill package passed. So we do have that going for us right now.
Thank you. And you guys have an amazing organized, you know, effort with tenants and all kinds of advocates. Do you have anything to post like for your meeting if people wanted to join? Do you have a link or anything?
I would have to grab the link real quick,
Okay.
but I can. I'll have to pull up Gmail and find it.
Okay, if you have time.
Yeah.
And while you're doing that, thank you so much for that information.
Okay.
We'll go to Lisa Tenser, who has her hand up.
Hi, all. My name's Lisa Tenser. I work at the Vera Institute of Justice, and I want to thank you, Micah, for all this great information today. I wanted to share a little info. So, Vera Nation Outsider working to spearhead one of the bills on Micah's slate of policies for this housing home stretch campaign. And like Lisa noted, it's called Fair Chance Housing. And so the bill would put some parameters on how a landlord could screen someone's criminal background or conviction history when they apply for rental housing. And it's really needed because right now you can look at, you know, someone's arrest from 20 years ago, which is really not relevant to if someone is going to be a good tenant. And so that's why we're pushing for this legislation. It will impact, you know, the over 2 million people in Michigan who have some type of conviction or arrest history. So we'd love your support. In addition to coming out to the rally next week, which I'm very excited to attend, we have a couple action items that I wanted to put on folks' radar. If you're able to take action with us to push for fair chance housing before the legislature wraps up here. Really easy way to support. I'm going to put the link. I'm going to put a few links in the chat. I know, I'm just adding to all the links. But you can email your legislators really quick. If at this link, you just put in your address and it auto-populates an email that will send to your senator and your representative. So you can do that. We also have a virtual event on November 20th. We're doing a digital day of action. So I'm going to put the link here. Would love to have you there. We're going to talk a little more in depth about the bill. Folks are going to hear share their stories about, you know, having these barriers to housing. And then we also have a partner toolkit. So if your organization is willing or individuals as well, we're going to try to really blast this out on social media on November 20th. And so here are some easy images and tweets that you can share on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, whatever your preferred socials are. So yeah, and I'll put my email in the chat too if anyone has any questions or concerns or wants to support. So thank you.
Thanks, Lisa. Lots going on yet this year, and you know, if you choose to do one thing, it'd be wonderful. And they make it very easy. We all try to email or call your member of our legislature because really it is important. They really do take notice, and they are one of the most responsive legislatures. And so it's really, you will hear back from them if you are a constituent and you reach out to them. So letting them know what your views are and what you think is important is really, they work for us. So it's really key. We will email out all of the links in follow up to you and let you know everything that we covered today, as well as some of the flyers. So next slide, please. And if anyone has anything else, just let me know. But as always, you can always reach out to me. Here's my email. We are going to be around, and yes, please fill out the link if you don't get our newsletter yet. We try to keep up on everything that we've talked about. I want to just make sure you know that our next LAC meeting will be Monday, December 2nd. And we have a speaker coming, Courtney Myers-Keaton, who was with us a couple months ago and our call got interrupted. So she will be coming back to talk about some of the work that they're doing around housing in their COC. So next slide, please. I think that's it. You can follow us. We're on all the social media platforms. We have a lot of materials on our website. And we just really appreciate you being with us today. I hope everybody has a great week. And I hope you take some time to take care of yourself, whatever that means for you. And we will be with you. And I look forward to engaging with a lot of you in person this month, and hopefully seeing you on December 2nd. So thanks, everyone.
Bye all. Thanks for being here.